The Brat beat the Cantor. Sgt Bowe, was he a deserter? And what does it mean for the future of our country? And I want to address again the issue regarding the owner of the Clippers and the NFL player who is out of the closet and what it all means for us on today's Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. I again thank all of you who have been praying for our family and especially for our son, Michael Winston, who has been stricken with cancer. We have relocated to Memphis so that he can be treated here at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which is a phenomenal institution. For those of you who support them financially, your money is very well contributed. As you know, unless you've been in a coma, which I know you haven't been, that's why you watch this program, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor was defeated in an insane upset by some political standards by a man named David Brat, who is a professor at a local college in Virginia. Cantor spent over $5 million, repeat, over $5 million in a primary, okay? And Mr. Brat spent under $200,000. So this is over 20 to 1, over 25 to 1. These kind of numbers are almost unheard of in a political setting. And according to one article I wrote, no House Majority Leader in the history of the Republic has been defeated in a primary. Now, what I want to use this moment to discuss is something very simple. This was about amnesty for immigrants. The end. That is all that Mr. Brat campaigned on. Now, the reason that this is critical is because if you have watched the news and the commentaries, or if you've read the news over the past few days since Mr. Cantor's stunning defeat, you will note that people like the New York Times and everyone who follows on their brazen trail have said repeatedly, this was not about immigration. This shows that the Tea Party is still alive and well. This shows that people are distrustful of the establishment and they want new people to come in, etc., etc. But anything but immigration. Now, the reason that I want you to ponder this for a minute, and by the way, some of you who are regular viewers of this show know that I have not taken as hard a stance against immigrants as some people. And I have a lot of reasons for that I am not going to go into today. But the reason that this is critical is because Phyllis Schlafly released a report a few months back showing that if these 11 million illegal aliens are granted amnesty over whatever window of time it's going to happen, that the vast majority of them are going to become Democrats. So you have to go back to when President Johnson created the Great Society programs, and up until 1960, the majority of the African American community associated with the Republican Party. After Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, they became maniacally Democrat in their political partisan orientation due to the government giveaways, okay? And if these illegal aliens, who are predominantly, but well over 90% of them are Hispanic in origin, if they are granted amnesty, allowed to become citizens and become voters, the vast majority of them are going to become Democrats. And that will relegate the Republican Party to a minority status for our lifetime, for the foreseeable future. And so I close with this thought. The issue is, are the Republicans going to be able to ever lead the country again. If you watch this program, you know that there are many days I have more contempt for the Republicans than I do the Democrats. But the truth of the matter is that the fight against the murder of innocent babies and the fight to keep marriage between a man and a woman legally instead of people of the same gender, those two critical, earth-shattering moral issues, all right, they find their home, their defense, inside of the Republican Party. And so for the sake of the babies who are being butchered by the millions, for the sake of the institution, the sacrament, the covenant of marriage, those two reasons alone, all right, not to mention socialism, Marxism, the redistribution of wealth, but those two issues will politically die if these 11 million illegal aliens become Democrat voters, because they're going to toe the Democrat Party line just like the African Americans do. And then we will continue on our plummet as a nation into the jaws of hell. So sometimes you're not sure what's really going on. Listen to what your enemies are saying. Listen to the shrill voice of your political adversaries like Senator Chuck Schumer from New York. And then you'll figure it out. They don't want Cantor's loss to be about illegal immigration and amnesty, because if it is, then the other Republicans who are getting ready to cut this deal with the Democrats after the election are going to say, on second thought, we don't want to do this because we don't want our head on the chopping block like Eric Cantor's head was on the chopping block. Don't let anybody kid you. Eric Cantor's defeat to Mr. Brat was only about illegal immigration, because that's the only thing Mr. Brat campaigned on. This is the voice of resistance.
Hey, everyone's been asking me, when's Unstoppable coming out on DVD? Well, it's here. And I have created my own deluxe signature version of Unstoppable that contains not only the movie, but over 5 hours of additional curriculum and study guides for your family. It's perfect for your homeschool, educational facility, small group Bible study, and family devotions. And I'm going to share with you some of the spiritual warfare that surrounded the release of this film. This box set also includes extended scenes, new music videos, the inside scoop on the whole Facebook controversy. So what are you waiting for? I made this special version with my family in mind, and I know your family will be blessed by it too. Unstoppable 2.0 Deluxe Signature Version, available only here at kurtcameron.com. I can't wait for you to experience what's inside.
You clearly have been following the news about the release of American Sgt Bowe Bergdahl, who is being held by the Taliban for some 5 years. And clearly, this has become a political firestorm for President Obama because of the many issues that are surrounding him. And I want to focus on one, all right? Obviously, the parents of Mr. Bergdahl are thrilled that he's out, but the press is reporting that Sgt. Bergdahl refuses to talk with his own mom and dad. Press reports, intelligence reports are showing that it appeared that Mr. Bergdahl had converted to Islam, was calling himself a mujahideen, which is an Islamic fighter, someone who fights for the glory of Islam. There are clear indications that he deserted. He was not captured. 8 American soldiers died trying to find this man. So there's a lot of things that are politically disastrous for Obama. We released 5 high-ranking terrorists who, when they got to their asylum, one of them immediately began telling people he fully intended to go back to Afghanistan and fight Americans, all right? So this just keeps getting worse as it goes. But the thing that I want to focus on with great sorrow is that we have just announced to the world that we will negotiate with terrorists and that we will swap hostages. Now, for those of you who don't recognize how dangerous this is, we have done spy swaps, all right, in the past. We have swapped spies secretly, covertly with the Russians, for example. When President Carter had the disaster of the hostages in Tehran at our American embassy, he would not bow to them in the sense of trading hostages. It was a great embarrassment. But when President Reagan took office, literally the day that he was inaugurated, those hostages were released. And the reason that they were released is because the leaders of Iran understood that Reagan was going to use force against them. All right? We don't know what President Reagan might have done. He might have attacked their capital. He might have killed their leaders. He might have invaded the country. We don't know. But what they understood was that President Reagan was not going to negotiate with them. And they were not even considered terrorists in the sense of, while we consider Iran a rogue nation and a state sponsor of terrorism, it's still a nation. It still has embassies. It still has an ambassador. It still has a government that we can negotiate with, okay? Terrorists are not part of a government. So, like, for example, the people that are held at Guantanamo, they're not a part of a military force associated with a government who we can negotiate with, all right? So they're not prisoners of war in the most legal sense of the word, to be protected under the Geneva Convention. It's not like we captured a bunch of Nazis, then the Nazis captured a bunch of our guys, and then we release prisoners or do a prisoner exchange with a legitimate government or even a wicked government. This is not that. These are murderers, right? These are terrorists. So what do we do with them? How do we try them? We don't know. We haven't figured it out yet. But what we do know is that President Obama has turned all of our foreign policy on its head and invited Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and Hezbollah and every American-hating, Christianity-despising Muslim terrorist in the world, invited them to capture Americans so that we can make a trade. Even as we speak right now, even as I talk to you, there are Muslim terrorists and perhaps other kinds of terrorists that are discussing, they're in the preliminary planning stages of where they can best capture Americans, and then turn to the U.S. government and say, we'd like 5 more of our men from Guantanamo Bay, please. And that means that we're in for some rough years ahead of us. For me, I think that this might be a time when we should at least discuss in calm, dispassionate tones Obama's impeachment, because he put Americans at risk all over the world by turning a literally decades-old policy of the U.S. to not negotiate with terrorists. He turned it on its head and said, come, kidnap us. What would you like in return? This is the voice of resistance. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paulas Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. If you watched our 500th episode of The Voice of Resistance, you might have noticed that I was a little bit more intense than usual. And I thought, I should revisit that. Why was I going after the people that are attacking Donald Sterling or that are attacking Miami Dolphins' Don Jones for his comments? And to give you the proper backdrop, and so that you too could have the proper balance of moral outrage, I'd like you to listen to this phone call and watch this clip. Now, understand what you're about to see. These were legally obtained phone call to Planned Parenthood about a 13-year-old who's in a sexual relationship with a 22-year-old. Okay, statutory rape. And the other one is an African-American man pretending to be a pimp. Listen and watch.
Oh, okay. Let me stop you right here, because if you tell me anything else, I have to call the police.
Why?
Because you're 13 and your partner's 22, right?
Yeah.
That's against the law. I have to report it by law.
Oh.
So I don't want to know your name or anything about you if you don't want me calling the police.
Okay.
So what you need to do is you need to call completely anonymously and, talk to someone on our appointment line.
Okay.
And don't tell us anything about who your partner is.
Okay.
Okay?
Is it confidential talking or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm involved in sex work. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. There's some girls that I kind of manage, and I think I might have caught it from one of them. But like some of them kind of young, like 14 to 17 type range. But some of them are from like out of this country though. So it's like they don't, they're not going to speak that good English. So would I be able to come in here and help them fill out the paperwork or fill out their information? Because they're going to have a hard time reading it, a hard time knowing it. They're going to have to be walked through it. And otherwise, they're not going to be able to get any help. They're going to be just like, you're just going to leave,
Right.
So
we do have translation services here.
Okay.
What are the ages of them again?
From 14 to about 17.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys will be able to help them out,
Yeah, I mean, we do see
keeping them safe and whatnot.
teens that young.
Okay.
We do encourage parental involvement.
Yeah. I'm definitely trying my best to make sure that everything is safe for them. Okay.
I can give you our telephone, but anybody here can help you. I mean, and
Okay.
everything here is confidential. We can't give any information out.
Okay.
All right, did you hear that? The Planned Parenthood worker is telling the girl how we don't want to arrest your 22-year-old boyfriend. What kind of a pervert, what kind of a morally misguided person would say that? She should be saying, honey, you're trapped, you're in trouble, you're in danger. We want it, please, we're going to have to call the police. And then the pimp with illegal immigrant minors who are literally sex slaves, okay? Don't say that we're in the sex business and we've got some foreign girls. No, when you're a 14-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl in a prostitution ring, you're a sex slave, okay? So these are girls who are trapped. Now, let's bring it all the way back to Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling is a vile, degenerate human being. He just is. And he's a racist, okay? End of story. But the people who want to destroy him, they support Planned Parenthood. All right, so Donald Sterling is a racist. I get it. I hate racism. I have African American children. But Donald Sterling's not murdering babies. He's not involved, that we know of, in running a criminal syndicate with illegal immigrants. Children, 14, 15-year-old girls who are trapped in sex slavery, and yet the people who are trying to destroy Sterling are complete supporters, most of them are complete supporters of Planned Parenthood. You don't hear them decrying what's going on with Planned Parenthood. You don't hear them bemoaning that the African-American community is being decimated and murdered by the tens of thousands with the Planned Parenthood knife. You don't see Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all these politically correct black leaders who are calling for Donald Sterling's head on a chopping block. You don't hear them crying out against the vile barbarism and murder and criminal cover-up of what's going on involving Planned Parenthood. They're hypocrites, okay? This is politically correct neo-fascism, and it is disgusting. And the people who want to stand side by side with Planned Parenthood but take out Donald Sterling should be given all of the moral credence of fill in the blank. When I was a prisoner in a prison work camp in Alpharetta, Georgia, I had a lot of time on my hands to research who the bad guys were in the death of our culture. And I wrote Accessory to Murder. It is an overview of our political, cultural, media, and religious adversaries that are accomplices to the death of our culture. I encourage you, get a copy of this and learn the who's who of the bad guys. One of the greatest joys and passions that I have had for almost my entire life is music. And one of the best times that I had was putting together some albums in Nashville of songs that I wrote. One of the albums is called Dark Sunglasses Day. This is a country album, a lot of love songs and patriotic music. We've made it available to you online, and I hope that you'll go take a listen. You might be pleasantly surprised. You might even find yourself singing along. Donald Sterling, Donald Jones, Michael Sam. What do they all have in common? Watch this clip.
Yeah, but it's a legal thing. So,
well, what could happen?
well, he could get in trouble, not you, but he could. So,
Well, are you going to tell on him?
no, I won't. But maybe when you go to the doctor, you shouldn't tell them how old your boyfriend is.
Oh, okay.
I think that would be better.
Okay.
Just, maybe have a girlfriend come with you and tell him your boyfriend's 16 or something.
Oh,
Because he could get in a lot of trouble.
okay.
Okay, so don't say anything about that.
I'm involved in sex work.
Okay.
Okay. I believe I got it from one of the women that I manage.
Okay.
It could be her or several of the other girls.
Okay.
And they will need to be tested as well.
Right.
Now, we have some girls that they do not necessarily have all their documentation. Some of them are from out of the
We don't
country.
want anything like that.
Okay. Then we have a couple of girls that are pretty young, about 14, 15, but they need to be safe as well. I need to make sure that they're safe.
A lot of people who don't have documentation, there are clinics and stuff they can go to that don't require even a photo ID. So I mean,
Really?
it's not.
Really? Do you know of any?
I'm pretty sure the health department.
The health department.
Is one.
The health
They have
department.
to live in that county though. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If they live in Fairfax County, they
Yeah.
go to Fairfax Health Department. They
Yeah, we have an address we can give them. Okay.
Yeah. So and that's free testing too. So that might be.
Okay. And even for the younger girls, they can get tested there too as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to refuse service. I mean,
Okay. And even here, they can get you said they can get the birth control here still, and they can get the testing here as well.
All right, so here we see again Planned Parenthood covering up pedophilia, covering up prostitution involving sex slavery of illegal immigrants. Okay, when a 14 and a 15-year-old girl are involved in the sex business, they're sex slaves. They're illegal immigrants, and they are involved in the sex slave trade. Planned Parenthood is covering them up. So the elite, politically correct fascists go after Donald Sterling and say, we want him to sell. We force him to sell. Meanwhile, you have Steve Ballmer, who used to be the CEO of Microsoft. Okay, follow me. He offers $2 billion to buy the Clippers. Now, so what, Randall? No, he was the CEO of Microsoft. Microsoft, who has given millions of dollars to Planned Parenthood. Microsoft is supporting, and with Steve Ballmer at the helm as the chief executive officer, they're supporting this criminal syndicate who is involved with covering up crimes, sexual crimes against children. All right? Meanwhile, we got Donald Jones saying, this is horrible that these guys, these homosexuals are kissing on national TV. He is suspended and fined. What is the theme that they all have in common? that the politically correct fascists want to protect sexual perversion and cause your life to be destroyed if you try and fight against it. Don't be afraid. Resist them.